Billy, thank you for joining me here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
SDTS. I know you were busy running a panel a little while ago, and
Did you see it? It was a great
I
panel.
did. It was the best I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
But I want to jump into, before we get into SDTS, you've had an exciting technology sort of emerging and finally getting some really good legs.
Right.
Down here a couple of years ago in your lab, and we looked at Bivacor. And it looks like you got some really good momentum going there. So
I think so. I mean, it's been my personal grail quest, and training with Michael DeBakey, who made the first artificial heart, and then being in Denton Cooley's group, who implanted the world's first artificial heart, and then having Bud Frazier as my mentor and friend and partner. I've been inundated in this field forever and ever, and for the last 17 years, we've all worked indefatigably to try to make the world's first practical permanent artificial heart. And in that M&M thing, we were talking about mistakes that innovators make. And if somebody came up to me and said, I want to be a med tech innovator, I'd say, okay, first of all, don't do a class 3 implantable, and certainly never do an artificial heart, because the last 70 years, I mean, it's been just a series of smoking radioactive craters of people that have tried to do it. And it's, seems like it's pretty impossible.
but what do you think of the barriers? Is it materials? Is it FDA? Is it too complex? Is it what do you think the barriers been?
Those are really good barriers, all the ones you just named. It's got to fit within the confines of a chest. It's got to meet the physiology. It can't form blood clots. It can't break the formed elements of the blood. It's got to be power efficient so that you can have some sort of quality of life. It can't get infected. And I think the way everybody's tried to do it over the last 70 years is biomimicry, copying the native heart. And I think that's it's a great approach, but I think it's like making an airplane with flapping wings. And nobody could ever do that. It's once the Wright brothers realized that and said, Wilbur, I think, pointed out that no bird soars in a calm. He realized that wind going over a certain shape created lift. That was a foundational insight, and they made the first successful heavier-than-air craft. Well, Bud Frazier, my mentor, was the first to embrace rapidly spinning turbines to pump blood, and people would stand in line and tell them why that was impossible. Animal studies and subsequently clinical studies said the opposite. Now there have been 60 or 70,000 of those pumps implanted to support the weak heart. You would leave the heart in place and have a turbine assisting the heart. So everybody said, okay, rapidly spinning things can pump blood. But then the big insight, also Bud Frazier's, that maybe we can make an artificial heart that way. Well, why do we need an artificial heart? These little turbines just assist the left heart. Most of those patients limp around with a weak right heart. And for a lot of other reasons, there's still a really unmet clinical need for a total artificial heart. We've made the first rapidly spinning, magnetically levitated, single moving part artificial heart. It'll never wear out. It'll outpump a human heart by a considerable margin. And we're optimistic in a guarded fashion.
So where are we right now in clinical? Where are we in human? Where are we along the pathway?
Okay, so Bud Frazier and I started doing the twin turbine spinning hearts, and we had actually done almost 70 animals for as long as 3 months, and then in a kind of a bold move, we implanted one in a patient that was destined to die. Our device was made out of things that were approved by the FDA, specifically the HeartMate 2 turbine, the one that was the only one approved in the United States for commercial use. We put 2 of those and replaced both sides of the heart, and the patient did well hemodynamically. He had good blood pressure, could flow. He woke up, got off the breathing machine. He was gravely, gravely ill, though, and only lived 5 weeks and ultimately died of liver failure. Actually, ultimately died when the family asked us to allow him to pass. But based on that exercise, we got to meet Daniel Timms, this brilliant, brilliant innovator living in Brisbane, Australia, who had developed his own rapidly spinning artificial heart. He didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what he was doing. He met Bud Frazier in Paris, came to Houston. We brought his whole team to Houston, got it funded. That was in 2011, and started working on his project. We did animal after animal after animal. Took a long time before we could reproducibly get the animals to survive 30 or more days and exercise on treadmills. We had a pre-submission discussion with the FDA. We did a number of animals. It took a long time to get all that data together and to do those exercises. We submitted them in 22. We went back and forth with the agency. The lead reviewer is a brilliant scientist who worked on the Abiacore artificial heart, Eric Richardson. They were great to work with. They had some questions. We answered them. We did some more animals. And ultimately, November 17th, 12 weeks ago, something like that, we got the nod that we are approved for our EFS study in the United States. We've been spending a lot of time and effort training centers, and we have 9 very prominent U.S. centers, the Texas Art Institute, the Cleveland Clinic, Duke, Columbia Presbyterian, NYU Langone, Christ Hospital in Cincinnati, Banner in Arizona, the University of Chicago, Integris in Oklahoma. And to get those sites ready, the site activation, getting the insurance, the indemnity together, training the physicians, having them come down to Houston and implant in a pig and come off an arm bypass several times, and then do fitting studies in human cadavers with all these teams, and then going to their hospital with a pump setup and training their anesthesiologists, critical care doctors, perfusionists, cardiac surgical techs. I mean, it's been a mountain of work, but the majority of it's behind us, and I anticipate, late March, early April, the first pump going in. So,
Wow.
in the next
Wow.
6 to 8 weeks.
Wow, that's exciting as heck. And you've started to build the team around that as well.
Yep, we built a team. We've raised money. We've got a great board. You may know Ray Cohn, who just sold Exonics to Boston Scientific. He's the chairman of our board. Jim Dillon just came on as our CEO. He brought a lot of people with him. There have been some changes in our personnel, but now we have a great team. We're packed for the journey. We're funded, and we'll see. I mean, it's our Wright brothers moment. Hopefully it'll go the way we think it will.
Well, certainly there's an incredible demand for that right now.
Oh, no question.
And what is the clinical, what does the EFS look like?
So 5 patients to start with. For this trial, they're all bridged to transplant. Patients will stay in the hospital until they get their transplant. And so if they're alive and for some reason we couldn't transplant them at 6 months, or survival to transplant are our endpoints. We have some exploratory endpoints about 6-minute walk and living with heart failure and things like that. But survival to 6 months and survival to transplant. We have the ability to expand the EFS if we want to do additional, but this device is not intended to be a bridge to transplant. This is a one moving part, magnetically levitated, big gaps. We think this is a destination device. We think this is instead of a heart transplant. So in the United States, last year, depending on what statistics you look at, there are hundreds of thousands, millions of patients living with heart failure. Some say 400,000 die each year. I think a more conservative statistic is 150, 160,000 die each year. Last year was the busiest heart transplant year we ever had, 4,169. Because hepatitis C donors, because of the opioid pandemic was creating more donors, because of these organ transport boxes, donation after cardiac death. But still, 4,000 for 160,000 people that are going to die of heart failure. It's the number one cause of death across every demographic. And we've needed an artificial heart for forever. And that's why so many people have tried for the last 70 years. But this magnetically levitated single spinning disc, I've seen a cow. We put these cows on the treadmill and they exercise. In fact, I think when you were down in Houston, I don't know if you saw a video or saw a cow, but we've had cows with cardiac output with this device in their chest where their heart used to be over 20 liters a minute. You and I have cardiac outputs of 6.5, 7 liters. When we exercise, maybe 15. So this thing is a different device than has heretofore previously existed in the field.
So this year's a pretty profound year for you if we get into the EFS and we get everybody in place.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do everything I can to make it go well. Daniel Timms has put together an amazing team of engineers and scientists, and that are all proceeding with a sense of urgency, and we're all pulling our oars at the same time. The clinicians at those sites I named are totally engaged, they're helping us design the procedure, and they've come down, and it's just been fun. It's been incredibly engaging, and I think it's the most significant thing I've done in my professional career.
That's pretty substantial given your track record.
Oh, you're very kind.
Yeah, well, appreciate your time on this, Billy.
Thanks.
You got it. I'm Joe Mullings from SDTS. Next big thing, Houston. Be well.